are welcome. Hopefully I can add some value to your Golden Visa journeys. Again, if you haven't joined before, if we haven't spoken just yet, my name is Jason Swan. I'm one of the senior partners for Holborn Assets, and I'm based, as I mentioned, in Portugal, where I have been now for the past 4 years, give or take. I am an expat myself. I actually lived in Spain for 5 years before heading over to Portugal, and I was in Spain for 5 years, where I learned a very similar amount of Spanish as I do know now Portuguese, which is not so much at all. Fortunately, I'm very good with numbers, which keeps me going, and the vast majority of who I speak to can speak English, but my Portuguese is not up to scratch just yet. However, we'll be applying for my Portuguese passport in the next maybe 12, 18 months, give or take. I do need to pass the language test before I can do that. But you will find me in Portugal, nonetheless, down in the south, in the Algarve. I am a fully qualified financial planner, and I'm an expert, of course, when it comes to the Golden Visa in Portugal as well. I work for Holborn Assets, who are actually a wealth management practice, and we now manage over 3 billion euros between, I think, 26 offices now globally. And I spend a lot of my time helping my clients structure their income and their assets and the taxes for when they become tax resident in Portugal. But more and more often now, I find myself talking around, of course, the Golden Visa program. So any questions you have around money matters, around, of course, visa matters, or just generally living in Portugal, a pretty handy guy to ask, or at least I like to think I am. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions that you have, and I'll try my best to answer them as we go through. But as an introduction to Holborn Assets, again, we've been around now since 1998. Around about 6 years back, we opened a new part of the Holborn Assets Group called Holborn Passport. And Holborn Passport is a service dedicated to helping our clients achieve residency and citizenship by way of investment in different countries around the world. And it's very much an all-encompassing service. I think we've now done over 10% of the world's Golden Visa applications for Portugal. And we provide everything that's necessary to succeed with the visa and, of course, move forward towards receiving citizenship, which we can apply for after 5 years. And the service includes, of course, setting up initially your tax numbers for Portugal, which you'll need before you can do anything, really. But yeah, tax number is step number one. Step number two, of course, will help get your bank account set up, which you will need before any investments are made. Of course, the legal work will be completed as well, and will help liaise and facilitate all of the process right throughout the visa application. If you get a chance, please type my name into Google, have a look at some of our client reviews on Trustpilot. You'll see lots of commentary, lots of content online for myself around Portugal's Golden Visa. And yeah, hopefully I can cover any questions, of course, this evening as well. But that's Holborn, and the Golden Visa program for Portugal is one of many that Holborn Passport is able to offer. It is by far our most popular program by quite some distance. However, if you're not necessarily set on Portugal, then you may wish to consider other routes to Europe and citizenship in Europe, or perhaps internationally, if not maybe too set on getting into Europe, but thinking more just of a second residency or a second passport. Of course, this evening we're going to focus on Portugal, but if you do have any questions on any other parts of the world that you'd like some more information on, feel free to get in touch, and I'll be happy to assist. So, the latest news. Look at that fancy slide there. Forgot I did that. Almost look like I know what I'm doing when I come to slideshows. So, the latest news for Portugal. What can I tell you? So, let's start with my update, which I sent out a few days ago. Actually, I think most, if not everyone, should have received this earlier in the week. But there has been some political uncertainty for Portugal in itself. Normally, we're talking about America when it comes to political uncertainty, but also in Portugal, we've seen the collapse of the Portuguese government. And it's not all doom and gloom. However, it is important to know that this may and may not have an impact on the Golden Visa program. And at the moment, there are two government parties that may come into power, which we'll find out more about in July this year. One of which is very pro Golden Visa, and the other is quite anti Golden Visa. And we may find ourselves now in a position where either the criteria for the Golden Visa program may become a little easier. Dare I say, we may even see the return of real estate investment. But the other side of the coin is that we might see the closure of the Golden Visa program, very similar to what nearly happened back in 2023. So yeah, bit of an interest. I hope you found that article helpful. If you do want another copy, please do drop me a quick email there at the bottom. But yeah, just some general commentary. It isn't something to worry about at this stage. You know, any changes that do come into effect will take some time. So there is certainly no need to panic at this stage, but it's just something to be aware of, that we may have an expiry date on the Golden Visa depending on, what happens in those elections. But that was news from this month. I don't know if it's good or bad news, but news nonetheless. There may be some plus points to come from that in due course. What else we've seen? Of course, the ongoing turmoil in the US has caused a significant uplift in applications for the Golden Visa from America in particular. America now accounts for, or US citizens, should I say, accounts for the vast majority of those that are applying for Portugal's Golden Visa by quite some distance. I was seeing pretty much a 300% uplift in applications since the election last year. I don't know why that may be, but it seems to have caused some upset, and now on quite a regular basis, we seem to be talking about Plan B. Not necessarily people looking to move to Portugal right now, I would say, but there certainly seems to be an increased interest in having a backup option, or the option to leave the US. Depending on how things plan out over the next few years. But yeah, Americans certainly now, the vast majority of those looking to apply for not just the Golden Visa, but for all visas for Portugal, for that matter. But yeah, other than that, I think most were probably aware of that fact already. And again, I'll be sure to keep everyone up to date with this as things progress. But other than that, a pretty stable month. No other kind of big headlines. Of course, we've seen pretty big fluctuations in the currency exchange, especially from the dollar to euros, which is something to factor in. And of course, we've seen the stock markets take a significant slip this week, and of course, lots to talk about and to factor in when deciding if the Golden Visa program is something of interest, and of course how to go about the timing of perhaps an application as well. But without going through all the intricate details, if you would like to stay up to date on all relevant news updates regarding the Golden Visa, you're very welcome to join the WhatsApp group by scanning the QR code that you see on the screen at the moment. And as best as we can, we'll provide expert commentary on a range of different areas, shall we say, that may be linked to the Golden Visa, and of course any relevant information of upcoming events, and yeah, just general useful topics, then feel free to join. But for tonight, let's get stuck in, and I'm going to start with the basics of the Golden Visa program. And you may already have the basics, but let's start at the top. So the Golden Visa is quite unique, by the way, that it is the only visa for Portugal that doesn't require you to become a tax resident in the country. There's only a minimum stay of just 2 weeks every 2 years in Portugal, which allows you to get the visa and ultimately to apply for a passport after 5 years. All other visa types require you to live in Portugal for at least 6 months and to become tax resident. And the Portugal program is very much seen as kind of a gateway to Europe, really. It's for clients that are not necessarily looking to move to Portugal right now, but are maybe thinking of a move in the future, or maybe just want to get access to a European passport. for use at some point in the future. When you get the Portuguese passport, it is kind of like getting 27 passports all at the same time, because you can then live in any of the European states and not just Portugal. Portugal is one of only 2 countries that don't have that minimum stay. The other country is Malta. The Maltese Golden Visa program can get a European passport a lot faster. We can actually get a passport through Malta within about 18 months. The downside being is that it requires over €1 million to do that, compared to Portugal, which can be done with as little as €168,000. But if you can't wait for the 5 years and you need a European passport ASAP, the Maltese program may be an alternative. But taking that aside, for those that don't want to invest €1 million, Portugal remains by quite some way the most popular Golden Visa program in Europe, A, because of the lack of minimum stay requirements, and B, because of the low capital requirement as well. The program's been around now since 2012. It's very much tried and tested. There's been thousands of successful applications, and Portugal maintained a 97% success rate from visa holder to becoming a citizen. There are, of course, some caveats of moving to getting a passport, which we'll cover in a moment. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a VIP pass to live, work, or simply sunbathe as long as you like in Portugal, without the need to actually live in Portugal full time. So that's nice and clear. Again, any questions on that, feel free to drop in the Q&A. Now, as a visa holder, you get access to all the benefits of being a Portuguese citizen. Apart from, you cannot vote and you cannot run for president. But apart from that, you get access to the public healthcare system. You also get access to the education system as well. Portugal, I believe, has the 4th best healthcare system in the world, which certainly didn't feel like that, in all honesty, when I had to go to the doctor a few weeks back, where there was a pretty long queue, but officially it has the 4th best public healthcare system that you will find, and that is an automatic benefit of being a Golden Visa holder. I do have some clients that have actually applied for the visa exclusively for the access to the healthcare, with actually no plans to move to Portugal. So all things to factor in. Of course, it's not a bad place to live as well. We don't need to talk anyone into the benefits of living in Portugal, but I will give you a very quick geography lesson. I'm down in the south, in the Algarve, a little town called Albufeira, where typically it's a little warmer, and the beaches, in my slightly biased opinion, are slightly nicer. But it's quite a slow pace of living. It is more of a kind of a beachside town, if you like, compared to like of Lisbon, being the capital, which is, of course, a lot more built up, a lot more going on in Lisbon. And the same for Porto as well. Generally, Porto, Lisbon, and the Algarve are the 3 kind of most popular destinations for expats. But we're now seeing more people going inland as well, buying up land inland as well, where perhaps, you might fancy living on your own winery, or just living in the middle of nowhere without any distractions, perhaps. But yeah, I'm down in the south. But for those that are looking for, for full-time work, then, Lisbon tends to have the more job opportunities, being more densely populated. But you're not going to go far wrong, no matter where you end up, in my opinion. I actually ended up living somewhere completely different to where I expected when I moved from Spain, and it took me a little time to kind of put the anchor down on where I settled in the end. But if you're not too familiar with Portugal, and when you do start to look to move full time, good advice just to travel around. You can get to the top, from the top to the bottom of the country in about 5 hours. The public transport systems are pretty good. Ubers are incredibly cheap, and get a feel for it. They're all Portugal is full of different adventures and experiences, and ultimately where you settle maybe completely different to where you might think. But as far as the Golden Visa and how we can qualify for the visa, let's get stuck into the different categories. Now, there are currently 5 routes to the Golden Visa. The first option is you can set up a business in Portugal, and if you create 10 jobs, that is a way of getting the visa. Probably not the kind of thing you would do just to get a visa, but if you do have expectations to open an office in Portugal or set up a new business, and getting the Golden Visa is a nice added benefit of doing so. If you wish to make a donation to Portugal, you can do so with either 500,000 into Portugal's research activities or a smaller sum of 250,000 into the national arts. Strangely, I've not done any applications for donations. I've done, we've done a large amount of applications now for the Golden Visa, and still yet to do a donation. But it is an option, nonetheless. And the most common route now is through some form of venture capital fund or investment fund that meets a certain criteria set by the Portuguese government. The minimum investment is 500,000 euros. And you also have the option to invest directly into an existing Portuguese company, again with 500,000, on the basis that that company will create at least 10 jobs for a minimum amount of time. So investment options number 4 and 5, donation options 2 and 3, and setting up a business is option number 1. Now, there are some variations of those thresholds. So formally, like I said, the minimum donation route is 250,000 euros, and all investments require 500,000 euros to be invested. However, as I say, there are some variations as of today's date on what capital is required from the investor. Now, as of around about 6 to 9 months back, there became the option to finance an investment, whereas you can actually lend the 500,000 euros to be invested on your behalf for a fee of 168,000, which is still a pretty hefty fee. However, as a comparison to a donation, 250,000, to be able to qualify with 168 is a pretty substantial difference. And then as we look at the investment routes, again, 500,000 has to be invested to qualify. But there are, again, as of today's date, an investment option that pays an upfront return of 101,000 euros, to be precise, which can actually be used towards the 500,000 minimum investment, leaving just 399 for the investor. And there are currently 2 loan variations as well of either 50 or 74,000 euros. So the minimum capital, again, as of today's date, that we're aware of is 325,000 euros, which is a mixture of an upfront return rather than an annual return and a loan as well. And the loans have different payback options. But those are the current thresholds of capital that are required. Hopefully that all makes sense. Get any questions, feel free to drop them in, and we shall come back to those and more details on the caveat on those criteria shortly. Now, as far as who qualifies for the Golden Visa, the rules are pretty simple. There are no income requirements. There's no age restrictions. You don't need to be a highly skilled worker of any kind. There are just 4 boxes to tick. Box number 1, you cannot already have a European passport. If you do already have a European passport, then you don't need the visa anyway. But that's rule number 1. You must have a clean criminal record, or at least a pretty clean criminal record. We have had success with some misdemeanors in years gone by, but in the main, you need to have a clean criminal record. Of course, you need to make an eligible investment into Portugal under the rules of that's set by the government. And of course, you need to commit to 14 days in the country. What a horrible thing to have to do. But you've got to be in Portugal for at least 14 days every 2 years. And that is all. That is it. So, yeah, as long as you can have a family holiday every couple of years, that will be fine. Clean criminal record. You're not already a European, and we're good to go. That's it. Super, super simple. Yes. As far as family members, there is one main applicant. Okay, the main applicant will be the owner of the chosen investment, but that main applicant can add more family members on the same application. They can include their partner or spouse. You don't have to be married, as long as you live at the same address. That is fine. We can include parents over the age of 65 without any proof of dependency. Portugal assumes dependency automatically for parents over the age of 65, and the same for children up to the age of 21 as well. If your children are over the age of 21, it isn't to say that they can't be included. However, we do need to provide some proof of dependency, which can be done in a couple of ways, the easiest of which is to provide proof of enrollment into some form of further education. And if we can do that, that will suffice to include children above the age of 21 on the same application. And yeah, all in all, it's designed to bring 3 generations of family to Portugal. Unfortunately, you can't include brothers or sisters. You cannot include work colleagues or friends. You can't include pets. Although pets you don't need a visa for a pet. You can bring the dog or the cat, no problem. But other than that, yeah, parents, children, and spouse can all be included on the same application. Now, the process that we follow, a bit of a busy slide, but yeah, don't worry too much about everything that's on here. This is generally what we're doing behind the scenes. So once we've decided on the type of investment or donation that you wish to make, the first part of the process is to apply for your Portuguese tax numbers, also known as your NIF. And once we have the tax numbers, we can then apply for your Portuguese bank account. Now, as part of the law for a successful visa application, the investment money must come from outside of the country into a Portuguese bank account. The donation or the investment must be then made from a Portuguese bank account. So we apply for that pretty much straight away. The bank account does take a bit of time to set up. It's probably the longest part of the application process at the moment, but once that's ready, you can transfer the investment monies to your new bank account. You'll be meeting with your attorney in Portugal. They will go through the investment or donation contracts. You'll complete the power of attorney, and we will be gathering all the documents that are needed for your application. Things such as copies of passports, proof of address, marriage certificates, birth certificates for children, and criminal record certificates as well. But of course, we will guide you through what's needed as we start. So don't worry if you didn't remember that list of documents. But once we've got all that together, we can make the investment and then we can submit your application online to AIMA. And we aim to do that within 8 to 12 weeks on average, very much dependent upon how long it takes the bank account to open your bank account. 8 to 12 weeks, all being well, to get all of that ready and then be able to submit your application online. And once we submit your application, that is when the 5-year clock begins to tick for then when we can apply for your passports. Now, a change that came into effect last year is that the 5-year clock now begins from when we apply for your visa rather than when we receive the visa. And that was kind of on the back of increased pressure on AIMA, the timeline that it's taken to actually issue the visas. And of course, people were waiting for not only the visa to be issued, but then having a fresh 5 years to wait until they can apply for the passport. The good news is now that no matter how long it takes to get the visa, there is a maximum of 5 years to when we can apply for your passport. So that was very much a welcome change. Otherwise, once that's submitted, we then wait for your biometrics appointment to be booked with AIMA. That's the first time at which we need you to travel to Portugal. You'll be accompanied on the day. We'll help to, of course, make sure you're prepared. We'll help with the translation that's needed on the day, and we'll try and keep you entertained as best as we can on what is probably going to be the most boring day of your holiday. For Portugal, it's never an enjoyable experience queuing up at AIMA, but yeah, we will be there to make sure everything goes to plan for your fingerprints and your photo, and then shortly thereafter to expect your visa card, which looks a little bit like this one here at the bottom. And yeah, that's the goal. Once that visa is issued, you then have access to live in Portugal full time. You have access to those benefits that we talked about before, including the healthcare system and the education system. And then yeah, that's what we're aiming for. That is the goal. And then once we've got the visa, we can then follow that path then through to a citizenship application once 5 years have passed. So as a recap on that timeline, we would expect up to 3 months to, again, set up the bank account, have your tax numbers, gather all the documents, make the investment, and to submit your application to AIMA. The timeline then to receive the visa is a bit of a difficult one to call at the moment. My guidance would be around about 18 months for new applications at this stage. We are seeing positive changes from AIMA. We're seeing new members of staff. AIMA have taken on 300 new members of staff across Portugal this year. The applications are being processed faster, and we have seen some significant improvements since AIMA took over from CEF last year, which was the previous immigration authority. And yeah, long may that continue. But of course, being counteracted by those positive changes, we are seeing an uplift in applications right now. So it's difficult to say exactly how long it will take at this point to receive the visa. But again, if I was a betting man for new applications, I would be setting my own expectations at around about 18 months currently. But nonetheless, as I mentioned before, the 5-year clock will begin as we apply for the visa. That will not be impacted by how long it takes to receive the card. And 2 years after the visa is issued, we will need to do the first renewal, which will be then renewed for a further 2 years. And then again, 2 years later, we'll do a second renewal. And around that same time, on the basis that you have kept a clean criminal record, you have maintained an eligible investment, and you have learned some relatively basic level of Portuguese. I say that as if I understand Portuguese, but it is formally an A2 language exam that is required to be able to apply for citizenship, which is kind of the equivalent of around age 16 study in high school. There is also an alternative option for taking an exam as well. Kind of a bit of an industry secret on this one, but there is a way where you can do a minimum number of hours study instead of taking a test. A little bit more of a premium option. But if you don't fancy taking a test, then obviously when we chat, I'll give you the details of the alternative routes. But either way, you need to have a certificate of some kind to say, I understand, or if I have studied Portuguese, for us to be able to apply for your passport. And then once we get the passport, then that is mission complete. So that's the plan. And as I say, the main benefit of actually getting the citizenship on top of the visa is you then have the rights to live in any European country, and not just Portugal. So again, even if you don't even really fancy heading over to Portugal, you can set sail, maybe not set sail, but head over to Italy or Germany or wherever it may be. But you will have a European passport at that point, which will allow you to live in any member state. And for some people watching at the moment, you'll also have the benefit of visa-free travel. Now, for first world countries such as the UK or the US, for example, we actually take visa-free travel for granted. We actually get that luxury as having the passport that we already have. However, for some nationalities, it can be very difficult and very frustrating to have to fill out visa applications every time you want to go on holiday. But again, as a European passport holder, that will dissipate, and you then have visa-free travel to over 190 countries worldwide. And as I mentioned before, you can live in any European country, but you can also study or work in any European country, or have a business in other EU states as well. So that is it. That's it. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. It's not a piece of cake. There's a lot of work involved, and can be quite overwhelming at some times. But that is, of course, more. That's what we're here for, to try and make the process a little bit easier. But overall, dealing with the tax office, the immigration office, the bank manager, the investment manager, biometrics. There is a lot of people, a lot of parties involved. But myself and my team, we are here to again facilitate and manage all of that to the best of our ability. We keep one line of communication throughout. We kind of take that burden away from you, and we'll simply let you know as we reach the key milestone, when documents are needed, and of course when your appointment is scheduled for biometrics. Okay, so other than that, thank you for everyone that submitted questions so far. I can see there is quite a lot of questions coming in. If I may, I'm just going to ask you to bear with me just 5 minutes or so longer. I may be able to answer some of these questions as we finish the next few slides, and then we'll open up the Q&A. And yeah, so I'll do my best to answer all. So let's just take a look in a bit more detail, and I'm going to not fly through these slides, but I'll be quite brief. So anything that I do miss, again, feel free to drop me an email, as you see at the bottom, jsoffice@holbornassets.com, or shortly you'll see a link to schedule an appointment if you'd like to speak privately. But let me give you an overview on the current rules for investment funds. So if you do wish to invest and not make a donation, or not set up a business, the investment option, as we mentioned before, is either through an investment fund or venture capital fund, or investing into a Portuguese company, investing into the share capital of a Portuguese company. So initially, venture capital and investment funds. So there's 4/5 rules that you need to abide by. First of all, in the universe, there are tens of thousands of investment funds. However, for an investment fund to qualify for a visa, it has to meet a very specific list of criteria. Now, the first one is the fund has to be approved and regulated in Portugal by the CMVM, which is the regulatory body in Portugal, and it has to be a Portuguese fund. The fund may not, as of 2023, directly or indirectly invest into any kind of real estate. Number 3, the fund must invest at least 60% of the capital into Portugal. Okay, so you couldn't have, for example, a US investment fund that invests into Portugal. Likewise, you couldn't have a Portuguese fund that tracks the US stock market. It has to be a Portuguese fund that is investing predominantly into Portugal. The minimum investment capital, as we covered, is 500,000 euros. And best practice, although it's not formally a rule, best practice is to ensure that you have an investment fund that isn't going to mature before you receive your passport. And best practice is to remain invested until you have that physical document in your hand, in case you do need to do any further visa renewals in the event of any delays along the way. And some investment funds may mature sooner than others. So, but all in all, they are the 4 rules. As far as when you're doing your due diligence, again, some of these things are quite obvious. But I think probably fair to say that Portugal, bearing in mind you have to invest in a Portuguese investment fund, Portugal, taking the Golden Visa aside, probably isn't the first country you would be thinking of investing into. The financial system of Portugal has come on a long way over the past 10, 15 years. However, it is not as robust, shall we say, as the likes of the US or the UK. So the first thing you've got to be checking out is, of course, security of your capital. Just because an investment fund qualified for the visa doesn't necessarily mean it's an investment that you may want to take on. So first and foremost, always be clear on exactly what is the worst case scenario and how is your capital protected. Where possible, try and find an investment that has some form of asset-backed security, which are few and far between. But the last thing that you want is for your golden visa to cost you €500,000. So it is important that you're mindful of the security of your capital. Secondly, be mindful of how long your investment money is tied up for as well. There are some investment funds which will qualify for the visa, however, will have penalties to pay if you want to withdraw the capital before 10 up to 14 years from now. Realistically, you're not going to need the investment for that long. And in an ideal world, you want to be able to withdraw that money as soon as you no longer need the investment. Be mindful of fees. Portuguese funds, by comparison with other countries in the world, are infamously quite expensive. You can find a variety of setup fees, management fees, and exit fees. I personally don't mind paying fees as long as they're justified, which isn't always the case. But always be clear on what the fees are in any investment funds that you choose. Be sure of, again, how the investment returns are paid. Is there a fixed return? Is there a track record of a good return? Is it a fixed or variable kind of performance-based investment? And yeah, be clear on exactly what you're expecting back. What is the investment risk? Again, I've seen some pretty what's the word? Adventurous investment funds. Again, if you see any investment funds that you like the look of, always feel free to share. I'll always ensure you get all the key facts and a full X-ray of any documents to ensure you've got a clear picture before making any investment. But be sure on what the risk is. I have some clients that have asked if they can invest into things like a theme park or a movie production, which may qualify for a visa, but also it's again, if the movie was a big success, it might make you very rich. But if the movie was a big flop at the box office, then you genuinely may lose a considerable amount of money. So yeah, if you're doing your own research, of course, just bear these things in mind, and where possible, always ask if there's any additional incentives on offer. Sometimes you can get a discount in legal fees or some cashback or complimentary stays, in Portugal and things like this. And if you are a US citizen, always be mindful that there is the requirement of the factor reporting back to the States as a citizen, and not all Portuguese funds are compliant for US citizens. And it can be quite tricky when it comes to tax time on certain funds. But otherwise, look, some basic housekeeping on those. Otherwise, you can invest into any sector. So there's no restrictions on how the money is invested as long as it meets those rules we looked at before. You'll often hear me talk about the tourism and hospitality sectors, but there is no restriction on the sectors in Portugal. These are some of the more prominent areas you may wish to consider. As far as kind of a spectrum of what's out there, and very much like the kind of global matrix of investment funds, they come in different shapes and size. There is currently a list of around about 30 funds that meet that criteria that we looked at before, with varying fund managers. We are not tied to any particular fund manager. We're free to process applications with any qualifying fund. These are some of the bigger names, and of course, I'll be happy to share with you, details of popular funds that other clients are investing into. And during a Zoom meeting, we can also review the directory. So you can see what's out there, and I'll ensure that you've got the necessary information to hopefully find an investment that meets your personal requirements. But as a quick snapshot, like I say, the time periods can be anything from no time period at all up to a maximum of 14 years. Setup fees can be from 0 to 3%. Management fees vary from 0 to 3% per year. Targeted performance from variable investments can be in excess of 15% per year. But of course, the higher that targeted return, there may be an increased risk of it going down as well. Fixed returns, for a fixed return investment, you'd expect around 4% per year. And as I mentioned before, where possible, try and find something that has some form of asset-backed security as well for that just extra layer of protection for your money as well. But otherwise, yeah, super quick crash course on what's out there as a spectrum. Funds change. Like I say, when we speak on a one-to-one basis, I can bring you fully up to speed on what's out there and answer any questions that you have. As an example, before we move on to the Q&A, if you're considering a fixed return as a preference, I would say the majority of people I'm speaking to are quite worried by the world as a whole at the moment, with the volatility in the stock markets and fluctuations in currency. The reassurance of a fixed return can be somewhat reassuring, certainly in addition to the stress of sending €500,000 to a foreign country. Tracking Portuguese stock markets on top of that might just be all that too much involved. So a fixed return may be the way to go. And as an example of one that is currently available, you can have an upfront return of 101,000, which is instead of an annual interest. So there's no annual returns. It's just one lump sum payment, which is 6 years return all in one go. The 101 can be used towards the 500,000 that has to be invested to qualify for the visa, which means 399 only from the investor instead of having to find the full 500. There are loan options, as we looked at before, of both 50,000 and 74,000, both with different T's and C's and payback terms. But the minimum capital from the investor can be as little as 325. There is an asset-backed security whilst you're invested, and also as an incentive, there is a complimentary stay in Portugal for 3 weeks per year as an investor. So this is very much kind of a family-orientated, sleep easy at night, predetermined fixed exit. Of course, the return works out to be a little lower than more adventurous funds. That 101,000 is effectively just over 4% per year based on the 399. But yeah, you have the reassurance that you know exactly what's going to come back out at the other end. If you are feeling more adventurous and you'd like to target bigger returns, there are, as I mentioned, a spectrum of funds to choose from. As one example, which I'd say is the most commonly requested at the moment, is with Portugal's largest fund manager, who's responsible for almost €5 billion of investor capital, with a track record dating back over 30 years. Again, traditional 500,000 invested requirement from the investor, but target returns 10 to 14%, and a good track record of achieving those returns. But of course, with something like this, you don't have the guarantees or the fixed return. So there is a higher level of investment risk to factor in, which is pretty obvious, of course, if you're going to target some bigger returns. But lastly, again, as the kind of third criteria, if you will, is the option to finance the investment. Now, so this has actually been surprisingly popular over the past 6 months. Obviously, finding 168,000 is significantly smaller sum than 500,000. And for those that are maybe already invested, if you are thinking of, if you would need to sell existing investments to find the capital for the visa, and those investments are already generating significant returns, you may actually prefer to just keep the money where it is and actually pay a fee of 168,000 and use somebody else's money to make the investment, whereas they take the investment risk and you get to keep your capital where it is. But this works by way that the 168,000 is an upfront interest payment for a lend of 500,000 for a term of 7 years. And the lender takes on the investment risk. And at the end of the period, at the end of the term, you simply reassign the ownership of the investment fund to the lender. So yeah, a very low capital option as an alternative to making a donation of 250,000. And again, happy to go through more specifics on this on a one-to-one basis. But other than that, they are examples, of course. As I would always suggest before making any decision, before spending any money, always be sure to speak to an expert. I don't know who this chap is here, but this very handsome chap is, of course, always on hand for any questions. And now, having done over 300 applications just in the past 2 years alone, I think I've seen all questions. We'll find out shortly if I can answer all questions, but I've seen all types of investments. I've come across all types of problems, and of course, always very happy to speak on a one-to-one basis. Should you wish, but before we jump into the Q&A, if you want to make a note of this little code on the screen here for all applications that are submitted. Sorry, not submitted. For new applications that kind of new applications that start the process before the 30th of April can request a complimentary course in Portuguese, which before anyone says it, I need to do myself. But there is an option of a 12 or 24-week course that is done online that will help us see you through to making sure you have the certificate that you need in preparation, of course, for your citizenship application. So it actually has a value of around about €600 per person. So yeah, I'll leave that up on screen for a few moments more. But yeah, that's, like I said, an online tutor and very much a welcome incentive, if you like, for any new applications this month. Other than that, thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful. I've covered everything that you need to know about the Portugal Golden Visa in around about 55 minutes. Hopefully I've kept everyone entertained talking to myself for the hour. And that was helpful. If you would like to speak on a one-to-one basis privately, there is no cost to do so. I just need to find some availability by scanning the QR code, or again, feel free to connect on WhatsApp or via email. And in myself or a member of the team will come back to you straight away, and they will be happy to assist. But without further ado, we'll get stuck in to some questions. And yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And just noticed that little picture of me down there. I thought I'd got rid of that when I had a lot less hair. We'll change that up shortly. Anyway, right. So, questions. Let's get stuck in. So, what's to get through? We'll start with those that have been submitted during the event, and then we'll make sure I've covered off all the ones that were submitted prior as well. So, hi there, Nancy. Will you be discussing the D7 visa? Unfortunately, not, Nancy. But if you would like to do so, please drop me a quick email, and I can introduce you to a D7 specialist. No problem. Hi there, Gary. Hope you're well. Holborn has attracted a great deal of investment for the Portuguese government. What type of engagement has Holborn done with regard to the agreed upon Golden Visa investment agreement you have with the government to move delayed applications? I'm not too sure of your question there, Gary, in all honesty. Do you want to just reword that for me and pop it back in, and I'll come back to that shortly. Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one, Gary. Just drop that back in for me. Now we'll come back to that one. Okay, how can you check the status of a 2-year-old Golden Visa application with AIMA? You need to speak to your attorney on that point. Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous. Yeah, whoever has submitted your application, you should just speak with your attorney and they'll be able to provide you with an update from the AIMA portal pretty quickly on your application. Hi there, David. Can you address the NHR 2.0 plan as it pertains to the Golden Visa? Yes. Well, the NHR plan, yeah, I did want to cover that actually. I completely forgot to cover NHR. So NHR stands for non-habitual residency, and it is a tax status for residents of Portugal. So it's not applicable for those that do not live in Portugal. But if you do spend over 6 months of the year in Portugal and become tax resident, you can apply for NHR. The old NHR program allowed for certain income types to be tax-free for 10 years, such as things like rental income from abroad and dividend income, and pension income was capped at 10% as well. Moving forward, the NHR2 program is more directed at those that are still working. And there is a way that you can link it to a Golden Visa program, but the investment selection has to be very specific. So there may be some benefits in that, David, depending on your personal circumstances and your investment requirement. But again, just to clarify, it will only benefit if you plan to become tax resident in Portugal. It won't offer any tax concession before you become tax resident in Portugal. But yeah, if you want to do a full breakdown on that, David, book some time in, and we'll go into some more specifics on NHR2. Hi, Brandon. Hope you're well. I've read about the recent changes made to the Portugal Golden Visa qualifying investment. Some sources say to avoid funds associated with real estate. Is Portuguese government accepting applications using the Atlantic Fund without complication? So yeah, Brendan, as we've covered, I think in the past, you're very right. There is no option to invest into real estate as of 2023. As long as the investment fund does not invest into or own any real estate and it meets the criteria of those that we looked at before, then yes, there is no qualms for the fund to qualify. So yeah, as long as those rules are met, Brendan, then we're good to go. No qualms there. Hi there, Eugene. Depending on which party takes control, when could a possible return of the Golden Visa via property happen? Okay, so the election is in July. If a new government comes into effect, and they immediately vote to change the Golden Visa program, it will take probably at least 12 months for that to come into effect, if not longer. So at very earliest, I would say the end of 2026, but way too early to tell just yet, Eugene. I think it might be quite optimistic to see the return of real estate. In all honesty, house prices are still rapidly increasing in Portugal. And part of the reason why it was removed was to try and curb increasing house prices. So I think it's unlikely, although it's possible. Like I say, it's possible, but I wouldn't hold your breath just yet, Eugene. Okay. Hi there, Jay. Okay, please clarify if either owning property in Portugal or renting there, but staying in Portugal for less than 183 days would make you a tax resident. And who makes the determination that the residence is a habitual residence? And is it your intention to use it as your primary residence? Okay, so in short, Jay, buying a property does not make you tax resident. Having a visa does not make you tax resident, and having a passport does not make you tax resident. The only thing that will make you tax resident is if you spend over 183 days in a calendar year in Portugal. So you will not be liable to any Portuguese taxes until that time. The only time that you may be liable for tax in Portugal is on any income that's derived from within the country, such as the rental income, which may come from a property. So you may pay tax on the rental income, being a property owner, but owning the property doesn't make you a tax resident. So hopefully that's answered your question there, Jay. Okay, so hi there, Rich. How risky are these venture capital funds, and what is the annual return? It depends which venture capital funds, I suppose you consider, Rich. Some are incredibly high risk, some not so high risk. Some have track records, some don't. The answer to that question can vary wildly. But the best thing I can suggest there, Rich, is if not already done so, I think you may have already done so, but if not, book some time in, and I'll give you some examples. I'll send some examples to you and talk you through some kind of real life examples. Okay, anonymous question. What are the loan interest rates? Okay, so the loan interest rate, which will be applicable to the fixed investment we looked at. So the loan of €50,000 can be repaid over 2 years with an interest rate of 5% per year, or it can be repaid at the end of the investment term for an interest rate of 10% per year. So I'll let you do the maths on that if it makes sense to do, or which option makes sense to do. The option of a 74,000 loan actually doesn't have an interest, but the return of capital is reduced in that event. So yeah, a couple of variations, but if you want, again, book some time in, and I'll go through a comparison of those different financials. No problem. Okay, so we've covered that already. As far as hi there, Martha. Will these slides be available online? Yes, they will be. Well, the slides won't be, Martha, but the recording will be. Yes, it'll be posted on the YouTube, the Holborn Passport YouTube channel. That will, all being well, be uploaded later this week, early next week. And again, happy to send you a recording as well. If any problem is finding, just drop me an email as a reminder, and I'll fire that over to you as soon as I can. Hi there, Adriana. Please review the lower threshold options, the 250 and the 168,000. Okay, so that came in at 26 minutes past 5. I think I've covered those now, Adriana. But if you do have any other questions on those, like I said, drop me an email, book some time in. I'll bring up on the screen how the donation works and the financials, and of course, the 168 as well. But hopefully those slides and those topics have given you a good idea. Okay, so another anonymous question. What if my child is 17 and in full-time education at the time of application, then older than 21 and no longer in full-time education at the time of the passport application? Does she still qualify as dependent? So the dependency needs to be proven at the application and the renewal stages. It doesn't need to be proven for the passport application, but it has to be proven when we renew the visa. So if she is older than 21 at one of the renewal stages, which she probably will be if she's 17 at the moment, then we will need to provide proof of dependency. If she's in full-time education, great. If she isn't, then we'll need to enroll her into some form of further education to have the certificate that we need, which is actually quite straightforward to do. But in short, we will need to provide some form of dependency at that time. Can your firm pay the LLC fee and have investment returned to firm at the end, or does it have to be done from my personal account? Very specific question there, Rich. I would book some time in on that one. If you've not already done so, we'll go through your question there, but I think that's a little bit too specific for everyone attending at the moment. So we'll cover that one-to-one if that's all right, Rich. Hope you don't mind. Hi, Edward. For someone who has already commenced the Golden Visa process, filed, has the tax number, property, but after 2 years, no biometric appointment, do you take over existing filings that have taken so long? Unfortunately not, Edward. I would love to, but the application will be under the management and the power of attorney of your existing law firm. So all the best advice I can give you on that one is to contact your existing attorneys, importantly. As much as I would love to be able to assist. Okay, so as far as, yeah, hi there, Rich. How much additional fee can I expect to pay in addition to the 500,000? So there's really two types of costs that you can pay. You have the government fees and you have the legal fees. Very much dependent upon the number of family members that you want to include and the type of investment or donation that you wish to make. And of course, the law firm that we utilize as well. So again, during a one-to-one meeting, which I can bring up on screen, a full breakdown of all personalized costs throughout the process up until when we get your passport. And then following that meeting, I can email everything over to you and answer any questions that you have. Hi there, Adriana. At what point can public health insurance be obtained? Immediately, Adriana. As soon as the visa is issued, you have access to the healthcare system straight away. Good, isn't it? So yeah, straight away, as soon as the visa is issued, you're good to go. Okay, hi there, Edward. Did I understand correctly? The 5-year application for citizenship date commences from the filing date of the Golden Visa. That is correct, Edward. Yes. So, in reflection of your earlier question, regardless of how long you have waited for your visa, it will still be a maximum of 5 years for when you can apply for your passport. It won't affect the passport timeline. Hi there, Eugene. In the future, will the Portugal citizenship cancel my income in the USA SSA income? I heard different answers. Not to my knowledge, Eugene, but I'm not a US specialist as far as SSA income. So I couldn't say for sure, but not that I'm aware. The US and Portugal allows dual nationality. So you can have 2 passports. But assuming for example, if the SSA income is a government benefit, you may find that's payable in the country where you live. If you're claiming that in Portugal, then yes, in theory, you might not be able to get that in the US if you don't live there anymore. Hopefully that helps give some context. Hi there, Kurt. Look forward to speaking with you on Friday, Kurt. What about transferring part of the IRA for the investment? This comes up quite a lot, actually. So clients, certainly from the US, that are looking to utilize retirement funds have been able to structure their income structure their retirement account in a way where they can qualify for the visa without making a withdrawal from the retirement account, which of course navigates taxes that you would pay if you was making a withdrawal. So yeah, it has been done. It's not a service that Holborn provide, but I certainly can introduce you to a company in the States that has helped other clients of mine kind of get everything set up before sending money to Portugal. And yeah, I can go through any questions you have, Kurt. But yeah, if that's something that you want to do, I'm sure that'll be fine. Okay. During the waiting period for the Golden Visa, is it possible to stay in Portugal? Only for 3 months of the year. You'll have the same residency rights as you have at the moment up until when the visa is issued. Hi there, Kurt. We have our NIFs, but no longer have representation. Are the NIFs still valid? Yes, your NIFs will be valid. We just need to make a note of those numbers, and they don't expire. It's just your personal tax number, so that will save us some time. If you already have those, that's fine. Hi there, Gary. Hope you well. Given the 5-year clock starts when the application is submitted, if the Golden Visa is issued close to the 3-year mark, do we need to pay to renew, or is it a 3-year renewal from the date of issue? The renewal will only be needed 2 years after the visa is issued, varies. So in that example, then really there would only be one renewal needed, because that would take you to the 5 years. Yeah. Hope that answers your question okay. Hi there, Rich. My funds are not in euros. What is the best way to convert and not pay massive conversion fees? The best way, which is for me to introduce you to a currency partner of ours who can help you get a good exchange rate going from your current currency to euros. They can also talk to you about maybe using a forward contract as well. Certainly with exchange rates being so volatile at the moment, there is a way where you can book your currency exchange in advance so that you don't have to worry about currency fluctuations during the application process. But yeah, I can make that introduction, Rich. So when we speak, remind me to do so, and they'll be able to give you some advice on how best to tackle of exchange to get the best currency exchange. Hi there, Rachel. With the change in government pending, what are your thoughts on what happens if we are in the middle of the process and the program is ended? Okay, nice easy one. That one, Rachel. In short, the important part of the process is the date of your visa application. As long as we do that before any changes in law, when the program closes, which may be soon and it may be in 3 years from now, I will add on this that it's not just the change in government that threatens the closure of the Golden Visa. This has been a talking point for quite some time, and there's still pressure from Europe on Portugal and Malta, for that matter, on the Golden Visa program. So it probably will close. If I was a betting man, I'd probably say in the next 2 to 3 years, regardless of the government, it will close. But that's not too important as long as you've submitted your application, and you will be grandfathered into the program. You will not be affected by any future law changes. And like I say, we just need to submit your application beforehand, and you will be protected by the laws in play on that date. That's all. Heather J, please confirm that during the 15 to 18 months before getting the residency card, you could not stay in Portugal or anywhere else in the Schengen region for more than 90 days in the 180-day period. Yes, that is correct. So until the visa is issued, your rights to be in Portugal will remain unaffected. If you are really keen to get to Portugal, there is a way where we could do a simultaneous visa application for a different type of visa, which of course would have additional cost to do a second visa. But we can look to reduce that time maybe down to around about 8 months, give or take. But yes, until a visa is issued, your residency rights will remain exactly the same. Hi, Adriana. What is the fee for the process? So yeah, as we mentioned before, there's really 2 types of fees. There is the government fees and there is the legal fees, both of which very much dependent upon the number of family members and the type of qualification that you wish to do for the visa. There's no additional costs for Holborn. You just have standard legal fees, and we facilitate the whole process on your behalf, in addition to an external law firm. And during a one-to-one meeting, Adriana, I can bring those costs up on the screen. I just need a few details from you to be able to give you an accurate breakdown, and then I can email that over to you as well for you to read through. Hi there, Jean. I did not receive an update on the current news. Here is my email address. Okay, no problem, Jean. I will have your email address from the registration. I'll be sure to add you to my news flashes. Hi there, Rachel. Are the funds that are invested in funds only by Golden Visa applicant money, or can other investors invest in these funds as well? Yes, all funds are just Portuguese funds. They are not just for Golden Visa applications. The example I gave before was with a fund manager with 4.5 billion euros under management since 1989, long before the Golden Visa program was even invented. So yes, All investors have access. Hi, Sahala. I hope you're well. On the 2nd of June, so on the 2nd of January, you emailed that the process had been sped up and taking 6 to 9 months. Did this change happen? Or are you giving a conservative 18 months to visas to manage expectations? 18 months is a good timeline I would have in mind, Stahala, at the moment. I hope it will be less. We are seeing some significant improvement from AIMA as far as the processing and the numbers of staff. So hopefully it will be sooner, but at the moment, yeah, I would set your expectations at 18 months. If you do want to catch up, by the way, Sahala, I do need to give you a bit of an update on something that we were talking about as well. So yeah, if you get a chance, drop me a quick email. Hi there, Anne. I hope you're well. If an investor withdraws money from a US fund and invests it into a Portuguese fund, the capital gains have to be paid, or would it be considered a reinvestment? Well, Anne, without getting myself shot for even being viewed as giving US tax advice, I'll have to decline to answer that question and to guide you to speak to your US financial advisor. However, as a general rule of thumb, if you're selling an investment in the US, if there is tax payable in the US, the chances are the US will want to tax you at that point. They probably won't let you get away with paying that tax because you're reinvesting in another country. So yes, that's all I will say on that matter. But for any specific questions, please consult with your advisor in the US. And yeah, we've got some questions. We're still more of questions. Okay, so we've got 5 to 10 minutes left, and then we'll finish up the day. We've got quite a few coming in, so let's fire through some more. Do children have to be A2 language certified too, or just the main applicant? It is for everyone over the age of really 15-ish years old. All adults will need to pass the test if they want to apply for a passport. Children below a certain age will have an exception. Hi there, Vivian. One can still apply for NHR. NHR 2, potentially, yes, with some caveats. And we first need to work out if there is a benefit of doing so. But yes, there is NHR 2.0 now, Vivian. If you want to, again, book in some time, happy to go through that with you. Hi there, Rich. Has there been anyone who invested in the Golden Visa ended up not getting their passport in the end? Formally, Rich, there is a 97% success rate from people that have a visa to getting a passport. The 3% that didn't either picked up a criminal record or came out of the investment before they applied for the passport, or like me, didn't learn Portuguese in time. I still have some time, but Portuguese, of course, is important. But all in all, yes, as long as you meet the criteria for the visa and you maintain the visa, the passport application is very straightforward. Okay, so hi there, Stephen. Can you speak to the tax payments on US Social Security? Unfortunately not, Stephen. I cannot comment on US Social Security during this webinar. I'm happy to introduce you to someone that can, though, if you would like to book in some time as part of my service for the Golden Visa. Hi there, Gary. What type of engagement is Holborn doing to move the delayed application? So as far as delayed applications, Gary, we do all that we can. Of course, we're very much dependent upon the processing from AIMA. And of course, we can add further pressure onto AIMA to the best of our ability. You can also, if you wish, you can also, put a legal case towards AIMA, which sometimes can have some benefits as well. Happy to kind of talk on that on a one-to-one basis, Gary. But in the main, it's not Holborn that is, of course, in control of the processing with AIMA. It's very much down to the immigration office. But yeah, if you want to catch up on that, Gary, by all means, book some time in. Happy to do and get some brainstorming there. Okay, anonymous question. Can I get a letter of employment from my company if I open a company? Will this be eligible for citizenship? Unfortunately not. No, it is not a working visa. If you I want to set up a business in Portugal and employ at least 10 members of staff. That may suffice, but no, an employment letter is not a qualification for the Golden Visa. You're very welcome. Can I apply for my 32-year-old as family reunification? I don't know. That's not a question. If you're wanting to apply for your 32-year-old son or daughter, probably not, because they're over the age of 21 and may be difficult to prove dependency. If you are the dependent and they are the visa holder and you are over 65, possibly so. We need to have a look at the specifics on that one. Hi there, Bruce. Is there any guarantee that once you start the Golden Visa process, the government will not change the program that makes the process longer or even discontinues the Golden Visa process? So yes, I think we covered that post that question there, Bruce. But yes, you have the guarantee of the law that as long as you have submitted your application, any future law changes will not retroactively affect visa holders. Yeah, that's all. But you will be subject to any changes before you submit an application. No problem, David. Thank you for the question. Does Portuguese tax on global income for US residents if have passport, even if don't live there? So if I understand the question correctly, getting a Portuguese passport does not make you tax resident in Portugal. Only if you live in Portugal. Okay, that's the only thing that will make you tax resident, which is different to the USA because, of course, the USA taxes its citizens, even if you don't live in the US. Most other countries are the opposite way around, including Portugal, whereas you are taxed if you live in the country, not necessarily just because you are a citizen. Hi there, Martha. In the €168,000 option you mentioned, is it correct that none of the capital is returned to the investor? That is correct, Martha. And just to be clear on that, the 168,000 is only as an alternative to a donation of 250,000. It is a sunk cost of 168,000 instead of an investment of 500,000. Hi there, John. Are there any tax benefits remaining on the current NHR when moving to Portugal with a view to becoming a resident? Yes, there are, John. I mean, the NHR 2.0 does offer a range of benefits for tax holders, including tax-free income on rental income and dividend income, with some other perks as well. Also, a flat rate of income tax if you're still working within a certain criteria. But there are some very, very specific investment requirements that you need to follow in order to qualify for NHR. But yes, potentially, and depending on your personal circumstances, there may be a number of incentives with that tax regime. Thank you for your question. What if you are retired and spend, for example, 3 months in the country? You are not a tax resident. Does that mean you do not have to pay taxes in Portugal as a US citizen? That is correct. Yes. So if you're not tax resident in Portugal, you do not pay taxes in Portugal unless, what should I say, on any income other than income from within Portugal. Okay. So on that, for example, a rental income would be taxed in Portugal if that rental income comes from within the country. But otherwise, no, if you're not tax resident, you do not pay taxes. Okay. So hi there, Deborah. Please go into more detail about the language requirement for citizenship outside of taking the test. No problem. So whilst I do that, a relevant slide I shall put up on the screen for language lessons, Deborah. So if you don't want to take the test, there is a way that you can do a minimum number of hours study instead and still get the certificate that you need to apply for your passport. The number of hours required is 150 hours. And yeah, you don't have to take a test. Arguably, you could probably take the test if you had done 150 hours study, but you can keep it as a backup option. It's just not sinking in. There is a way to do that. It does cost more money. I think it's about €5,000 per person. But yes, it is an alternative for taking a test. Hi there, Rich. Do I have to go through the same D7 qualifications process to do a VFS appointment in my home country? No, you don't, Rich. There is no consulate meeting in your home country with the Golden Visa. There is only one meeting, and that is in Portugal for the biometric. So there's no appointments required in your home country. Okay, so other than this, I think we're going to come up to a close, everyone. Now, thank you very much for all these questions. I hope it is helpful. So far, we really are covering everything that we need to know about Portugal Golden Visa. Okay, again, I won't provide any tax questions this evening, but if you do have questions on tax, please book in some time. Happy to do so. And help you prepare for becoming tax resident in Portugal. I can also send you a copy of our tax guide for Portugal, which might be helpful. Hi there, Edward. Okay, so again, I can't provide you a link to the portal for your application. Of course, if you've applied to another company, you would just need to speak with your attorney and ask them to provide you a screenshot. So for when we're processing an application, if our client requests an update, we can log in online, we put in your reference number, and we just get a screenshot to see exactly what status the application is up to. So yeah, all I can say on that is just to speak to your existing attorney, ask them to log in. We can't do that for you because we're not acting for you, but your attorney will be able to do so. And good luck with that. Okay, hi there, Nancy. Sorry, I must have stepped away when you talked about D7 visa. Do you recommend one for retirees? Well, the big difference, Nancy, between a D7 and a Golden Visa is that the D7, as with all other visas, you have to live in Portugal. You have to be here for over 6 months of the year every year, and you need to do that for 5 years to be able to then apply for a passport. So if you are looking to move to Portugal full time, the D7 or the D8 visa may be a viable option. But the Golden Visa is, of course, for those that don't want to or can't commit to living in Portugal full time. And again, the minimum stay is only 2 weeks every 2 years. So yeah, I'll let you decide then. Nancy, you can decide which one you think is best suited. You could do both. You know, if like I mentioned before, you could do both. If you can't wait for the Golden Visa, we could do the D7 first of all. You'll get access to Portugal a little faster, but then we can run this Golden Visa application simultaneously. And when that's issued, that will then supersede the D7 and release you from the burden of, I say burden, it's really not a burden to have to live in Portugal full time, but it will release the requirement to be in Portugal full time. But of course, there's more cost involved to do 2 visa applications. So a bit of brainstorming then, Nancy, but if you want to book in some time, happy to help you craft out a plan of action. And are there any big changes coming down to it? Still feel confident that the €15,000 is all that's needed and it can be used while living there. I think you might be thinking of a different type of visa there, Nancy. I think you might be thinking of the D7. There's no savings requirements for the D7. Hi there, Jay. Is there a way to rewatch the recorded seminar online? There is indeed. If you haven't had enough of me just yet, Jay, you can watch me as often as you like. The recording will go onto the Holborn Assets YouTube channel at some point over the next week. If you would like an early copy of that, please drop me an email. I'll be sure to send that over to you as soon as possible. And yes, you can also check out my personal Golden Visa channel, which is if you type in the Golden Visa Guide on YouTube, you will find a recording of previous webinars this year as well, and also some other key updates which will be coming up over the next few weeks. Okay, right, last few to finish, and then I shall head off for what we call in England my tea. That makes sense to some people, but very hungry, and I'll be getting some tea shortly. Do you know of a reliable website to determine what your Portuguese taxes would be if they decided to move there and become tax resident? Yes, Google, Jay. Google is a great source of information as far as tax information, but also, if you would like, our tax guide. I do have a tax guide, jokes aside, for Portugal. We're happy to send that to you. You can drop me a quick email, jsoffers@holbornassets.com, and I'll be sure to provide that. If you do want a full tax summary, a personalized tax report, then yes, that is a service that we can provide. It is a costed service, but happy to go through that, depending on, of course, how much advice that you need. Okay, hi there, David. We currently have a D7 visa. What are the benefits of the Golden Visa? So yeah, I think we've covered that now as well. So again, there's no minimum stay with the Golden Visa, and that's about it, really, David. Yeah, you don't have to stay in Portugal. You can spend as little as 2 weeks per year and still get the passport after 5 years. Thanks, Harlet. Yeah, thank you. I'll pick that up and I'll come back to look forward to speaking with you soon. Okay, so thanks, Nancy. Are you able to assist in obtaining the D7 visa? Yes, we can assist. It's not me personally to do that, but I will introduce you to a colleague that can assist with the D7. No problem. Okay, great. I think we're going to call it at that time. We're just coming up to 6:30, and yeah, I hope everyone found that helpful. Still lots of people listening to all the questions, so that's great. And if I have missed anything, please do get in touch. You've got the QR code. You've got access there to my email. Next month we'll cover off, of course, the May update for everything that we need to know for the Portugal Golden Visa. That's where we stand for now. Thank you for joining. Thank you for everyone for your questions, and I look forward to seeing you in Portugal very soon. Thank you much. Bye.